What's going on, everyone? It's your boy back at you again with another Tommy Reads X-Men. Today, we are looking at X-Men number 36 from September 1967, written by Roy Thomas with art by Ross Andrew. So a new guy on the pencils. This one is called Meccano Lives. Meccano Lives. And we're starting off with actually a robbery. We're starting off with two burglars trying to break into the X mansion. Now, Beast finds them, starts wailing on them, putting the hurt on them, working out some of that frustration. I feel like because he was hitting the burglars way more than they kind of deserved. Now, you may be asking yourself, where's the other X-Men while Beast is beating up these two random dudes? They're actually in the professor's lab trying to still locate him, as if you haven't read the past issues, he's been kidnapped by Factor 3, an organization that the X-Men know very little about, and they're trying to find out more, but they got Papa Chuck, y'all. So even Iceman's like, we should be more serious about fighting the professor. Like, it's been at least 3 issues he's been missing, which means bare minimum is 3 weeks. So what ends up happening is Hank knocks out the burglars and brings them to the team. Now, Cyclops is like, well, they can't know that we're X-Men in here, blah, blah, blah. So he takes Cerebro. And mind wipes. He John Cena, you can't see me. He mind wipes the burglars. And then he tells them, I don't know what the instructions are, but the next panel, the burglars are at the police station. They're confessing to everything. And that was 5 pages. That whole sequence took 5 pages. 5 pages of filler, y'all. Now get used to that, because this issue, here we go. All right, so the main plot of the story is that the X-Men need that sweet, sweet cheddar to go to Europe. Now, I know you're thinking to yourself, Tommy, they got a jet, right? They could just fly to Europe. Oh, no. See, Roy Thomas thought of that. And the X-Jet is out of gas. It's out of gas, Now, I looked it up. And in 1967, gas was 30 cents a gallon. I don't know when you're watching this, but it's significantly more now. Okay? In March 2021, it's probably like $3, $4, $5, something like that. I don't know. I haven't got gas in a while. So the X-Men decide to call Warren's parents for a little loan ski and, to get to Europe, because they want to fly to Europe. And they discover that Papa Chuck's Factor 3's lair is in the Alps. Alps are a big place, so they just decide the Alps. Anyway, so they decide to call Warren's parents, and when he calls them, the parents are actually on a cruise and they can't be reached. So the X-Men decide, let's go down to New York and go to the welfare office and ask for money. And they show up in a Rolls Royce, in Papa Chuck's Rolls Royce. They roll up to the welfare office, asking for a check. Like, I don't know if you remember ODB when he did that on MTV News. Like, he showed up and got his check in a limo in a mink coat. But that's basically what they were doing. And the people at the thing were like, get this out of here, with your Rolls Royce. What is this, some kind of rich kid college prank? So then when they're leaving the office after they got ran out of the Rolls Royce, Hank's like, there's other ways to get money. And everybody's like, what are you talking about, Hank? And then we leave it blank for a second. So, like, it makes you think, like, what was Hank thinking? You know what I'm saying? So the X-Men decide to split up, kind of. And then, so Hank and Bobby, who are always a team, go to... And, before reading these, I didn't know they were that tight. But they're, like, best friends. But they go and off somewhere. And that leaves the romantic trio of Jean, Scott, and Angel, Warren. And they decide, you know what? Let's go work at a construction site. So they go to a construction site in the Rolls, and they decide to ask for jobs, day jobs. And they throw in their X-Men uniform because they're totally pimping out their branding. And then they do like these little exercises to show the foreman that they're valuable. Like Jean lifts a beam with her mind, and, all this stuff happens. And then the guy's like, oh, okay, well, I can hire you guys. I just need your union cards. And they're like, our union was, huh? And then he's like, oh, you're non-union? Get out of here. That's a New York. It wasn't a New York accent. It was awful. Get out of here. You know what? Let's just regroup and So the X-Men can't get a job because they're non-union. So they end up heading back and realize that the Rolls Royce is gone. What happened? They parked in front of a fire hydrant and got a ticket and got towed. Who's telling them this? I'm glad you asked, because that's part of the review. Come on now. Anyway, it's a random dude named Tom Riegel, great name, and he tells them everything. Like, I saw it towed, and like, you guys got like a $40 ticket, and I imagine it would be a lot more now, but I haven't been towed ever. Knock on wood. Camera shake. Anyway, so he offers to give him a ride down to, they mentioned that the Beast and Iceman are in Washington Square Park. How they knew that from the Beast and Iceman just saying, oh, I'll see you. Maybe Gene read their mind or something like that. But they go down to Washington Square Park. Tom Riegel seems like an okay guy, I guess, to them. And they're talking to him. He has like some big box in the car. And one of them's curious, like, oh, what's this? He's like, don't touch it. Do not touch that. And then they're like, okay, I'm not going to touch it. Jeez. I mean, we appreciate the ride, bro, but calm down, okay? Traffic ain't that bad, surprisingly. Anyway, he drops them off at Washington Square Park, where they find Hank and Bobby doing a juggling act for money. Like, not only that, but it was like Iceman's like built podiums, and he's tossing ice rings, and Beast is like flinging them back at him. This is something that they have practiced at least once, if not 30 times. Because it seemed too well choreographed for them to just be making it up. And I know you're going to say, well, maybe they're danger room practice. No. That they had a whole routine worked out. Like, this is what they do in their spare time when they're not taking those girls on double dates that they never seem to finish and always seem to bail on them. But anyway, so just so happens that this guy, Tom Riegel, in the box was a super suit. And he is the Magnificent Meccano, because he has a mechanical suit. So they gave him the name Meccano. Why didn't they call him, like, Robotron or something? I don't know. Meccano just seems like a generic name. You know what I'm saying? But it's a generic issue. We'll get to that. So he goes to the park, or he's in the park, and he's like, I'm going to destroy this library. And people are like, oh, okay. And just to be a jerk, he's like, and these guys are helping me, pointing at Hank and Bobby. Now, the police have already been there watching this, and they are itching to put a hurting on the X-Men. And I think you know why, which I ain't going to get into. But anyway, so the other X-Men, Angel, Cyclops, and Marvel Girl, they're watching from the crowd, and they're like, oh, Hank and Bobby going to be in this one. And they're like, we need to help them. So what ends up happening is the X-Men, or who are all suited up at this point, start fighting Meccano in this library. They fight him, they get the W. As they're taking him out, Mr. Riegel, which is what I'm going to call him, he's Tom Riegel's father, comes up and he's like, what's going on here? Like, he just happened to be there, or we think, but in reality, he's the one who built the library. He also built the suit. So he was he put two and two together and forced Meccano to unmask, like a Scooby-Doo ending, and he's like, hey, Daddy. And he's like, oh, my son, I'll make him pay. And the cops, still pissed off for no reason, are like, well, yeah, what about the X-Men? Do you want us to, like, hit them with clubs? And they're like, no. X-Men did a good job. And then they're all disappointed. Good thing those days have changed. Anyway, so the X-Men, Mr. Riegel, is like, if there's any way I can repay you guys, and Cyclops, ever the opportunist, is like, well, actually, just off the top of my head, sir, we could use 5 tickets to Europe, just, on a whim. It's going to be about $1,500. And he's like, oh, and he cuts him a check. Yeah, there was enough left in the check he cut him for them to pay that ticket and get the rolls out of the towing place. In case you're wondering what happened to the rolls. He cuts him a check, like, of all the ways they could have got the money, like, save, nobody else who they rescue is like, oh, if there's anything I could do to help, and, I don't know, man. So, anyway, he cuts them a check, they start to board a plane. Now, mind you, I told you earlier that gas was 30 cents in 1967. Why they couldn't have used the money to buy gas to go to the X-Jet is beyond me. Now, I looked it up. $1,500 for 5 people to fly to Europe, round trip, 1967 apparently. Now, I looked it up. I'm not going to shout out which website I went to, Priceline. And I looked it up from NYC to, I picked Zurich, Switzerland, because that's when I think Swiss Alps. But Alps are a big-ass place. Anyway, it was about $3,200 for 5 of them. Now, this is in March 2020 when... I meant to say 2021. My bad. Flights are a little cheaper because ain't nobody flying because of the COVID. You know what I mean? I'm sure it's a lot more by the time you're seeing this in the future, or I guess you couldn't watch it in the past. But anyway, but by the time you see this, the price might be different. Things fluctuate is all I'm saying. So the X-Men get on the plane. Little do they know, they're being watched by whoever the head of Factor 3 is. Now, we only see a hand, so we've had a Scooby-Doo ending, and we've had a Inspector Gadget, Dr. Claw kind of frickin' second ending. End credit scene or whatever. And he's like, they don't even know I'm watching them. End of story. Final thoughts. Y'all, your boy keeps it real with you. Always have. Probably always will. Always will. Anyway, this was a 1.5, 1.5 out of 10. This might be, thus far, the worst issue of X-Men I've read yet. Now, I'm reading this so y'all don't have to. But it was a lame villain. Meccano. He has a mechanical suit. One and done. It was a Scooby-Doo ending, which I love me some Scooby-Doo. But I don't need that in my X-Men unless it's Scooby-Doo meets the X-Men. You know what I'm saying? Where's that crossover? Factor 3 was mentioned, but this was a story about the X-Men getting random day jobs and trying to earn money. You know, Papa Chuck's probably dead at this point. It's been 3 weeks in the kidnapped by some organization that they do not know. He dead. You know, I think they're just going to find his body. But, and the weird thing at the end was like all the X-Men were like psyched about going to Europe. You know, you going into a life or death situation and you flying coach. You know, like it's a, I don't know how many hours flight. Anyway, and like Beast complains about his shoes normally. He gonna wear those for 16 hours? It's a bad issue, man. Like I said, probably so far the worst one. It can only get better. It can only get better. If you like what you're seeing, or were mildly entertained, or was like, hey, Tommy, thank you for reading this awful issue so I didn't have to, but I can keep up with the story. Like and subscribe down here and hit that notification button in the corners. I don't know exactly where it's at. Got a lot of great stuff on the channel. Some food reviews. Got some food snack reviews, movie reviews, comic books. If you like pop culture, Tommy Loves Stuff is the channel for you. Anyway, tell all your friends. If this is your first time watching, thank you. I appreciate you letting me the opportunity to entertain you. If this is your 15th time, 27th time watching, awesome, dude. Come back next week. All of y'all do. Later.